My name is Father Charles Gaffigan. I'm a priest in the Diocese of Albany. I'm 79, retired, and I'm enjoying my retirement. I was a guest of Janice Thompson on her Christmas show, the 2014 Christmas show. And at that time, I shared why I'm happy in my retirement for two reasons. First of all, I'm a regular presiding priest at the Church of St. Adalbert here in Schenectady, and which I thoroughly enjoy. And secondly, I'm in residence in Johnstown, where I have a door-to-door ministry, which I shared the last time on Janice's Christmas show. Those of you who missed it, I'd like to refer you to the Access SAC Access channel. That would be SACC, S for Schenectady, and ACC for Access TV. And there you can find out what I had to say at that time about my door-to-door ministry. Before I introduced and invite you to reflect with me on today's reflection, which will be on God's mercy, I'd like to share with you an experience I had in my door-to-door ministry. About a year ago, this gentleman answered the door, and he was Catholic and away from the church for over 30 years. And I asked him if he had a good reason for not going to Mass. And ordinarily they would respond, no, I don't have a good reason. But this gentleman, he said, yes, I do have a good reason. He then proceeded to give me a litany of reasons to his mind, but to me they were complaints. So I listened down his litany of complaints, and at the end I said, what do you think about Pope Francis? His eyes lit up. He looked at me and said, now there's someone I can really relate to. Pope Francis, as many of you know, just finished visiting the Philippines. And the final Mass, over 6 million people in the rain came to that Mass. 20 years ago, Pope John Paul II visited the Philippines. He drew about 5 million. So there's something in this particular Pope that's attracting people. And in my opinion, he embodies the virtue of mercy. I'd like to just briefly go over some of the reasons for living a life of mercy. And it's taken from this pamphlet put out by the Sunday Visitor. And I'm going to just read excerpts from it, then maybe make a comment. The introduction goes this way. People are talking about mercy again, and it's all because Pope Francis is awakening our world to the need for mercy. He proclaimed that this is the season of mercy. Francis calls it a new era, and he urges each of us to travel this path of mercy. He tells us that mercy is the Lord's most powerful message, and he hopes that we will find a form of mercy for all. We need mercy because we live in an imperfect world. We all know people who have suffered a death in the family, a serious illness, divorce, a job loss, or some other personal tragedy. We have heard shocking stories of violence, oppression, poverty, prejudice, and abuse. And while we cannot stop every bad thing from happening, Pope Francis believes that we can become more merciful in our response to people in need. What do we mean by this word, mercy? We tend to think of mercy as compassion or sympathy, but the word has a much deeper meaning. It is more than feeling sorry for someone. Having mercy means that we enter into the other person's suffering. We feel that the other person's pain. see through the other person's eyes, and place ourselves inside the other person's heart and mind. When that happens, we are moved to respond in a merciful way. Jesus is our model of merciful living. Throughout his life, Jesus responded with mercy to people in all walks of life. He befriended the rich and the poor, tax collectors, prostitutes, lepers, a Roman centurion, and a Samaritan woman. He healed the sick, gave sight to the blind, and fed the hungry. He grieved when his friend Lazarus died, accepted the human weakness of his disciples, and forgave the people who crucified him. Mercy was not generally practiced in the time of Jesus. The Romans considered mercy a weakness. The Pharisees were so self-righteous that they showed little mercy. But the people who experienced the mercy of Jesus were transformed, and they became merciful to others. In fact, the Acts of the Apostles, we see how the early Christians followed the merciful footsteps of Jesus. I'm going to suggest ways that we can be a more merciful people. First, dare to really care. Allow yourself to look beneath another person's surface needs and feel what that person is going through. Maybe it is physical pain, or maybe it is loneliness, rejection, discouragement, or fear. Imagine that you are seeing this person through the eyes of Jesus. Then decide how you can help that person. Mother Teresa is a marvelous example of living out this virtue of mercy. They asked her one time, how can you deal with people who are dying and people in such dire poverty? And her answer was, I see in them the suffering of Jesus. Do not judge. Merciful people don't say, you got what you deserved, or you caused this yourself. Maybe the person did act recklessly, or refused to see a doctor, or continued to smoke or eat junk food. Let God be the judge of what happened. You are called to offer mercy and help in whatever you can, no matter what the circumstances. Avoid gossip. Merciful people refrain from gossip because they know that gossip is another assault on an already injured person. Pope Francis tells us it is so terrible to gossip. At first it may seem like a nice thing, even amusing, like enjoying a candy, but in the end it fills the heart with bitterness and even poisons us. Refuse to retaliate. Merciful people don't hold a grudge or try to even the score. They let it go. Give whatever happened to God and forgive. Forgiveness allows you to let anger, hurt, and bitterness drain out of your heart. It restores a sense of peace to your soul. Without forgiveness, you become a prisoner of your own resentments. With forgiveness, you mirror God's mercy. Did not Jesus himself, from the cross, say to us and to those who crucified him, forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they are doing. Don't turn away. When faced with an opportunity to be merciful, our greatest temptation is look away. It's easy to rationalize that someone else is better able to help than you are. But the reality is, When we turn away from someone in need, we are turning away from Christ himself. If we want to be merciful, we have to be willing to stand beside the other person, even if it makes our own lives more difficult. When we do that, we become more humble, kinder, and more compassionate. Cultivate little kindnesses. Small chances for kindness arise every day. No opportunity for mercy is ever insignificant. Allow another car to emerge into your lane, calling a grieving friend, checking on an elderly neighbor, helping a co-worker, and holding the door for someone are just a few examples. Sometimes a smile or a word of encouragement can change a person's whole outlook. Accept mercy from others. It takes humility to admit that we too are in need of mercy. When you allow others to be merciful to you, you give them the opportunity to reach out, to reach outside of themselves and enter into your pain. When that happens, they become instruments of God's love to heal and comfort you. As a priest, one thing I've enjoyed in my priesthood is a sacrament of reconciliation, an opportunity for me, really it's Jesus through me, to show mercy to those who come to confession. Shortly we will be beginning the season of Lent, February the 18th. It is customary during Lent to provide in every parish the sacrament of reconciliation. I would encourage you to prayerfully consider, especially if you've been away from the church for years, to come to the sacrament of mercy. Maybe you don't know how to start. Just tell the priest, I need your help. And the priest will help you in a very short time. If there are other people waiting outside, they won't know any different. It will be the same amount of time for anyone that comes to the sacrament of reconciliation. The sacrament of reconciliation, the word reconciliation means to be God's friend once again. We all have friends, but sometimes we fall out of our friendship with our friends. And what do? We feel bad about it. And this is healthy guilt. It moves us to make that phone call, to become friends once again with our longtime friend. And so it is with the sacrament of reconciliation. It's time to become God's friend once again. And finally, pray for mercy. Pray to become more merciful. Pray also for family members, friends, neighbors, co-workers, and people you know who are in need of mercy. Pray for people who have hurt you. Pray for people around the world who are suffering. Pray that everyone in the world will respond to God's mercy and in turn be merciful to one another. I have chosen Pope Francis as a living example of one who is merciful. Not by accident has this particular Pope drawn millions of people, their attention, not to him, but to the gospel of mercy. I can give more than one example of people who have been touched by this particular Pope's tone as our Holy Father. I believe people who are looking for mercy see in him the virtue of mercy. Everyone, they say, has a hole in the soul. It's going to be filled up with something. Unfortunately, in our day and age, it's filled up with overactivity, things that are really not as important as the Lord sees them as important. Our young people today are taken in by the media, and they're filling their souls with things that are not making them happy. So everyone has a hole in their soul. And in the future broadcasts that I'm happy to share with you, my sole purpose will be, with God's help, to fill that hole in your soul. Next month, I'll be attempting, with God's grace, to fill that hole in your soul with happiness. If there's anything we all hunger for, it's happiness. And once again, Pope Francis is an example of a joyful person. And I will go over with you at our next meeting Pope Francis's 10 secrets to happiness. Everyone hungers for happiness. What is the secret to happiness? Hopefully, you'll be able to join me next week. And some of the ideas that he presents to us are the following. Live and let live. Be giving of yourself to others. These are secrets to happiness. Proceed calmly. So many of us are upset today with the possibility of terrorists coming into our own country. For years, number one on surveys have been the economy. Now, for the first time in years, it's now the possibility of terrorists coming into our country. How can we have peace in the midst of all of this? There are some suggestions that will be made next month to give us an oasis of peace in the midst of a tremendous amount of fear about terrorism coming into our own country. Develop a healthy sense of leisure. So many of us are workaholics. We work. We get our identity from work. The Lord wants us to be first rather than to do things. We don't get our identity from work. We get our identity from being peaceful. Make Sunday a holy day. How many of you viewing this program go to a church? It doesn't necessarily mean a Catholic church. And by the way, as a priest, I'm not here to impose the Catholic faith on anyone in our viewing audience, but I am here to propose the Catholic faith. And in proposing it, I would invite you to prayerfully reflect on what the Catholic Church does have to offer. Come and see. There are many Catholic churches in our community. I happen to be the presiding priest, happily, at St. Adalbert's every weekend. Say hello to me after Mass. A young adult recently, been away from the church for years, happened to go to Mass one Sunday in another church. And she was struggling with a particular problem. And the problem was answered. Her struggle stopped as a result of what she heard in the homily. Mass is offered every week, wherever you are. Or if you choose to go to another church, go. As someone wrote a letter to the editor not too long ago in the Gazette, we have lost our moral compass. We are adrift. We can find that moral compass, once again, if we're not going to a church of our choice, by going this Sunday and every Sunday. Someone has said that to perform a good habit, it will take a minimum of a month. Many of the people I visit in my door-to-door ministry, they're away from the church, the Catholic Church, for years. Good people. Why? Because they've gotten out of the habit. But bad habits can be put aside and good habits put in their place. But it will take some effort. It will take a minimum of 4 weeks, a minimum of 4 Sundays, to reestablish that habit that you were once in when you were raised by your parents. You made your first communion, your confirmation. This habit can be reinstored by coming to Mass, not once, twice, but a minimum of a month. And so that's another way to happiness. Create jobs for young people. Respect the care of nature. Pope Francis, in the near future, will come out with his first encyclical on the ecology. And it's the ecology not only of the environment that surrounds us, but he talks about the human ecology. We're allowing things to come into our life that are polluting us, that are separating ourselves from God who loves us. I would invite you, as this encyclical comes out, to reflect prayerfully on that. Not only the environment that surrounds us physically, but our own spiritual environment. Our spiritual environment is very important if we're to attain happiness. Stop being negative. How often we're in the company of people who are negative, especially in the culture we live in today. It's not easy to be positive, but it's important to be positive. Let me briefly read to you about being negative. Constant complaining, biting criticism, backstabbing, and gossip are like poisons that kill happiness. Needing to talk badly about others indicates low self-esteem, Pope Francis explains. That means I feel so low that instead of picking myself up, I have cut others down. It is not easy to change from negative to being positive. The first step is awareness that being negative or positive is a personal choice. The second step is making a concerted effort to stop ourselves from negative thoughts and words as soon as possible. Letting go of negative things quickly is healthy. The Pope adds, it leads to a more positive and happier outlook on life. As I began this program with Pope Francis, I would invite you to join me next week when we'll again focus our attention not on Pope Francis, but upon Jesus, his gospel, whom he reflects. Hopefully, you'll be able to be with me next week to share the secrets of a happy life. Thank you for listening.